Check out the latest footwear innovation from Adidas, the Adizero Adios Pro 2, which features carbon fiber energy rods that are both lightweight and precisely tuned for a more anatomical transition. Everything from the ultra-light polyester upper to the re-sculpted midsole and the reinvented outsoles are designed for speed. Visit adidas.com to learn more today.
Hi, my name is Joe, and I'm a home decor overspender.
Hi, Joe.
I made a breakthrough. I found HomeSense. It's unreal. So many brand name sofas. I bought one.
Oh, wow, really?
It's okay. The prices so low. Lighting unexpected. Rugs handcrafted. Wall art eclectic. I go back like every week. No, it's always different. New unique decor. Same great savings. Every time you go.
Field trip.
HomeSense. Standout pieces. Outstanding prices.
All right, back on the Bill Riley Show, halfway home here on a Friday, coming to you live from the Uinta Brew Pub here on the west side, 1722 South Fremont. Come on out, have a little lunch. Got the little Ryder Cup going here. Got ice-cold brews on tap. Got really everything you need on a Friday afternoon. The patio's open, too, so you can sit outside today if you'd like to. I know a guy that likes to sit on the patio and have ice-cold brews. Not sure if he's a Ryder Cup fan or not, but Chris Camrani of The Athletic joins us right now. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
It's been a while since we chatted. In fact, I reached out to Chris the other day, and I was like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? And he's like, hey, got a promotion. I'm like, well, congratulations. So congrats on the promotion. What are you doing now?
Thanks, man. Well, first off, you know me. I'm not a big self-promoter, which is unfortunately a little too ironic for the industry that I'm in. So I'm still plugging away at that, trying to get better at that every day, as we say in the sporting world. But no, I am now a features writer at The Athletic as part of the features and enterprise team, and now have a national footprint to work with now. I will still be, dipping my toe in the local scene every once in a while, especially as big stories come about. I think, there will be Jazz stuff, there will be college football stuff. So I'm not leaving, but I'm just going to have a much wider, longer runway now to be able to, on a full-time basis, go out and do stories.
So do you, I'm just curious, a little behind the scenes here. I'm sure people would be interested. Do you track these? Do you find ideas? Do your editors bring them to you? Is it a little bit of both? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's mainly me, but it's also editors that will come to me with a story, kind of in the far-off future that, you need to start making some calls on this story that we want for later on in the college football season or for the early stages of the NBA season. But primarily the stories that I come up with are generally coming out of my demented brain. So my dad always said be good at one thing, and I guess I can say I'm decent at finding some random sports stories that people like to read.
Well, I mean, obviously the one you did a month or so ago on Colton Swan was excellent. You got a chance to catch up with Damian Lillard when he was back here at his annual event at Weber State. And then you had a piece last week that went up, a little bit on the Muhammad Ali doc and Ken Burns. I'm just curious, what kind of guy is Ken Burns? I mean, I know what his work is. I've seen all of his docs from Civil War to baseball and all of those, but what kind of dude is he?
He's the smartest guy in the room automatically, and you get that when you get 35 minutes of Ken Burns on the phone. It's like you transcribe the interview after you're done, and you're like, oh, I wish I could just print these 8,000 words verbatim because he's that insightful of a dude. And when your job is to, research and find facts and truth on historical figures, and you have the brain that Ken Burns has, you're always going to remember and retain really pertinent information. So when you're talking about Muhammad Ali, he'll be able to, drop a quote from Dwight D. Eisenhower from World War II that resonates or anything. It was, as a nerd, as a Ken Burns nerd, as a guy that grew up watching the documentaries on PBS as a kid and into my adult years, it was a highlight. It was one of those rare kind of moments that you get to geek out in this job.
Well, it's cool. I haven't, the doc will always be anything Ken Burns does, I'm going to watch. And because to me, some of the best documentaries, Chris, are the ones, and I'll say this too about great feature pieces in writing too. And you can say this maybe even a little bit about podcasts in my business, but some of the ones I'm most drawn to are the ones that maybe I don't have a great deal of interest in, but I know that the person that's producing it, in this case, it's a Ken Burns, or maybe in a case like a feature piece, like a guy like you, or one of my favorite columnists, Joe Poznansky, or somebody that's like that. I'm going to read it or I'm going to watch it because of who it is, because I'm probably going to learn something and then come away probably entertained. And that's how Ken Burns is. I feel like I know a lot about Ali because I'm older than most of the audience here. When I was growing up, he was at the end of his career, but I've read books, I've seen documentaries, I've seen it all, but I know Burns is going to give me something that I don't know or I haven't seen before.
Precisely. And I think that, to me, is the definition of genius, especially in this era when so many stories or video, documentaries or oral documentaries, podcasts have told stories about historical figures. We tend to believe that we've seen or heard it all. But anytime you can get Ken Burns with 7 years worth of runway to work on this documentary series the way he did on Muhammad Ali and be able to produce 8 hours on, I think you can argue one of the most important people in American history, you're going to come out of it not only entertained and educated, but also you're going to learn stuff that you never knew before. And I think the hardest part of this job, especially in sports, is telling stories about famous people, well-known people, and finding new angles and new ways to tell their story.
Well, what's great about today versus, say, 10 or 15 years ago, or certainly 20 or 25 years ago, is we've got platforms now that allow much better storytelling. And I say that in that, like The Athletic, where you work now, you are not handicapped by deadlines, or at least hardcore deadlines, and you can write 10,000 words, or you can write 5,000 words, whatever you would like. We have many, many more documentaries today and outlets for documentaries. And in my business, while I, Monday through Friday, am somewhat, constrained and handicapped by commercials, if I want to create a podcast, I can go 3 hours on a podcast if I want to with a guest rather than just 12 or 13 minutes. So I think it's great today. If you want the short form stuff, there's plenty of that out there, from videos to interviews and things like that. But we've got so many more platforms, including where you work, to get much more long-form stuff, too.
You mentioned no longer having deadlines, and I just had these, terrorizing flashbacks of 8:35 kicks at being at Buckshaw Stadium during my days on the RSL beat, hoping to God that Chris Wondolowski didn't score at 10:45 Mountain, knowing that my deadline would be blown to bits. I do not miss those days. There is an injection of adrenaline when you're on those kind of hard and fast deadlines, but I don't miss that one bit whatsoever.
So they give you basically a wide berth, and you're able to, we want it by this date, Chris, if you can get it to not this hour or this minute, but by this date.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, the enterprise team is kind of in charge of securing as many A1 standard stories on the Athletic website as possible. And those are heavy lifts, because at the Athletic, A1 stories are the stories that all of the big-time editors identify as the best story on that specific day across all of the writers that we have. And we have, hundreds of writers in countries all over the world, and some of the very best in the world covering so many different sports. So the pressure ramps up a little bit on me, but it's exciting. It's a new challenge. I feel very fortunate to have been able to carved out this, role for myself, but also not really forgetting the nitty gritty and understanding that there are going to be really great stories in my own backyard. And I think Utahns especially are always afraid that, once somebody leaves them, that they're going to be abandoned. I'm not abandoning the Utah sports scene at all. I'm just diversifying my options a little bit.
So if I gave you carte blanche right now, you have the entire, let's just say, American landscape. We won't go worldwide, but I'll give you the entire American landscape. Give me a story, give me a person, give me something that if you, it's a given. You're going to get it if you want it. We don't have to go through publicists. You know you're going to get it. Give me the story you'd love to write right now.
Damn. That's a great one, and there's a lot in there. Going from sport to sport, I think in college football, the true all-access Nick Saban story would be just off the charts because the guy is so fascinating. He's the best to ever do it. And if you were given that kind of runway and transparency from somebody like that, I think that could be a great story. I think there's great stories with the U.S. men's national team. I mean, I'm going to be helping out with, profiles of some of those guys going forward. I mean, this Ricardo Pepi kid is an amazing story, and he is turning out to be our best option as a number 9, as an 18-year-old striker. And there are so many unknowns about this young team going into World Cup qualifying, but I think that's the beauty of it. Trying to think. There's lots. I mean, there are so many, and there's so many that I've been able to do luckily so far. But I'll have a full list next time you have me on, because this is something I probably need to map out for myself anyways going forward.
Well, good. I'm glad I can give you a to-do list for our next get-together. Do you think the U.S. men's national team is going to qualify? They have been very uneven. Even when they've won and qualified or even when they've gotten points, they haven't looked great. I don't think they've played a 90-minute match, in my opinion. I think they've had moments of goodness and a little bit of greatness, but I don't think we've seen a good 90 minutes. And, we can blame players. We can blame injuries. I think some of the decisions by Greg Berhalter are a little head-scratching. Subs have been better than starting lineups at times. But if I made you wager that rather large athletic budget and salary you have, would you bet on them qualifying?
I want to be an optimist the older I get, Bill, which it kind of runs counter to who I am as a person. I want to say yes, but they have to prove it, man. I mean, the reality is those first 3 games were on the weaker side of what the U.S. men's national team will face going forward. And with just how condensed CONCACAF qualifying is due to COVID, you're playing 3 games in 9 days. You're bouncing around the world. You're going to have to rotate your squads. And frankly, if the U.S.'s top-tier talents aren't available, whether due to injury or suspension or whatever, it's going to get hairy. Because if you can't beat, El Salvador on the road, if you have to have a furious second-half comeback to beat Honduras and be impressive doing it, the climb gets much more monumental when you talk about having to go to the Purple Monster Estadio Saprissa down in Costa Rica, or going to Azteca, or even going to Jamaica. This group has its work cut out for them. And while I tell people this all the time, we have the most talent from a U.S. men's national team perspective than we've ever had. The technical talent, the upside is just off the charts. But I think what this team lacks is just overall experience. They need alphas. And for so long, we might have not had a ton of talent technically, but we had alphas, whether it was Landon Donovan or Clint Dempsey or Claudio Reyna or Brian McBride. These were guys that believed that on any given day they could get a result for the men's national team. And I think these young guys have it in them, but you understand that once you put the badge on and once you understand how much is riding on this World Cup qualifying cycle, considering what happened in 2018, the pressure is getting pretty intense for these guys.
I agree with you, and I'm with you. There were plenty of alphas for a long time. I don't know who the alpha is right now. I don't think it's Christian Pulisic. He doesn't feel like an alpha to me. Ricardo Pepi is 18 years old. He's not going to be that guy. I mean, who do you turn to? As you said, there's a lot of guys playing at very high levels, but I don't think any of those guys are that guy on their club. Where you look at European teams and things like that, their national teams are littered with guys that are the guy on their team. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Hey, thanks for coming on. Congrats on the promotion. As always, looking forward to your next piece, and enjoy the weekend. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, appreciate you, Bill. Thanks, man.
Where's my order? Does anyone know how to find my order? How can I find my order? Break free from customer support monotony. Welcome to Intercom, the customer support platform that uses chatbots, shared inboxes, apps, and more. Intercom's business messenger resolves questions that can be answered automatically, so customer support feels less like Groundhog Day and more like help is on the way. Go to intercom.com/support to learn more.
A message from Virginia Department of Health. Some of the new COVID-19 variants spread more easily. Lower your risk of infection by staying away from large crowds and wearing a layered mask in indoor public settings.